Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the MCDFNL Footy Show for another week, brought to you, as we are every week, by Bendigo Bank MCDFNL, our fantastic naming rights partners. Sean Kelly's my name, joining you in the host's chair as always, and joining me is my trusty sidekick and co-host, Sam Gowers. Sammy, welcome back.
Thanks, mate. Glad to be here.
Now, there's a rumour going on that you actually graced a football field as doing something other than being a runner on the weekend. Please tell.
I did. Denali just forfeited in the two, so I played a bit of a scratch match at Natty, and I just chucked the boots back on. Did
Boot remember how to connect to Sharon?
Yeah, Boot did. Actually, I think it might have gotten better.
Jesus, didn't know if that could be the case.
No, I was already at the pinnacle of football.
Yes, I was going to say you were right at that sharp end, but you've somehow managed to get better.
Yeah, just reached new heights.
G. Condon?
Terrible.
Terrible. That's about standard for the par of the course. Let's jump straight into this footy show this week, mate, because we've got a huge show coming up. Not only looking at the talking points within the league, but of course our big round 12 matches this week as we draw closer and closer to that one day in September. It's really only around the corner now. But before we have a look at it, let's have a look at last week's round 11 results. We'll start with the footy. And it was Avoca 10-9-69 in the upset of the round, defeating the Maryborough Rovers 8-13-61. Campbell's Creek 14-7-101, defeating Maldon 4-9-33. Great to have the Fresh FM boys back broadcasting that game as well. Carisbrook 20 goals, 7-127, defeating Talbot 12-7-79. Really only the last quarter where Carisbrook put Talbot away, and some good signs for the Hawks. Natty Bialba 19-13-127, defeated Denali 1 goal, 6-12. He's back. One of our favourites is back in the Natty side, and we'll talk more about him later on. Lexington 15-8-98, defeating Harcourt 13-7-85 after Harcourt jumped them with 8 goals in the first quarter to 2. Navarre 17-11-113, defeating Newstead 2 behinds, 2 points, second week in a row. Newstead have kept the team at 2-0 goals. And Royal Park 9-10-64, defeating Trentham 5 goals, 10-40. Netball results, please, Samuel.
Avoca 73, knocking over Rovers 36 in a big win for the Bulldogs. Maldon 79, defeating Campbell's Creek 12. Carisbrook with a big win over Talbot 47-15. Natty 55, knocking over Denali 10. Harcourt giving Lexington their second loss of the season 32-23. Navarre 58, defeating Newstead 20. Trentham 65, knocking over Royal Park 25.
And as we can see with the ladders on the screen at the moment, the footy ladder first, what we're going to talk about very, very shortly is that mix from 8th to 12th spot, where it is only 20% separating those teams. Absolutely phenomenal the way this season is working out. Netball ladder on the screen at the moment, you can see that the top 8 is just about done and dusted. There's now 2.5 games gap between Trentham in 8th and Royal Park in 9th. You'd think that something would have to go drastically wrong for Trentham, although they do have some tough games coming up. They finish with Talbot and Campbell's Creek, who are yet to win a game this season. So you'd think that that top 8 is just about done and dusted, but we've said that before and we've been wrong, so it'll be interesting to see how that figures out. Talking point number 1 for this week is that logjam in 8th spot on the senior footy ladder. With all the results last weekend, we now have 8th place Talbot and 12th place Avoca separated by just 20%. Talbot in 8th, Campbell's Creek in 9th, Trentham in 10th, Maldon in 11th and Avoca in 12th. It's going to be an interesting run for that 8th spot, and really after the result on the weekend you can probably bring 7th spot into it, because the Rovers aren't necessarily done and dusted. If they won on the weekend, they would have had that 3-game buffer, and I reckon they would have been in. But when you consider the Rovers have still got Natty, Navarre and Royal Park on the way home, plus a game against Talbot, which could be a 50-50, their Rovers aren't any sure thing at the moment.
No, certainly not. We had a look at a couple of the teams' run home before. A couple of them got not bad runs. We know Talbot have got not a bad run home. Yep. But a few of them have got pretty tough stretches.
Yeah, Trentham in particular. Trentham got Carisbrook, Lexington and Harcourt in the next 3 weeks. That is tough.
Yeah, you think they'd probably have to cause a major upset there to figure in that race for 8th spot.
Yeah, you think that probably 3 wins would out of the next 5 games would probably be required for that 8th spot, and really 4, if you can pull 4, which we look at Talbot, and have a look at this week's MCDFNL Advocate, because we've gone into detail in this, breaking down the race and who each of these teams have got left on the run home and what we think is going to happen. But you look at Talbot, they've got Campbell's Creek, Denali, Rovers and Trentham in the next 4 weeks. They're all 50-50 games or better if Talbot are on their game. If they can win those 4, that's 7 wins for the season. They'll definitely play finals. whether they sneak into 7th or 8th, because they could knock Rovers over. That could be a pivotal game for Rovers as well.
Certainly could, and we've seen Talbot the last 2 weeks really step up, play some good footy. They pushed Carisbrook all the way, like you said. It wasn't until the final quarter that Carisbrook kicked away from the Hawks. So they're probably my favourite for 8th spot, I think.
Yeah, looking good, the Hawks at the moment. Obviously, it's taken them some time to get to this point, and if they had got some results earlier in the season, obviously they've already played Rovers once, they've already played Trentham once and been knocked over by both of them. They had those 2 games in the bank, they'd probably already be there, and we'd already be talking about them as finalists. But some work to do for themselves as well as the other teams, and I tell you what, as we have a look through, don't write off Avoca yet either, because they're the ones that are sitting in 12th spot at the moment. Their next 3 weeks, Maldon, Creek, Denali.
Yes, could give them some pretty handy percentage, and we saw that they are capable of mixing up with the top 8 side on the weekend, knocking over Rovers.
Yeah, they are indeed, and they weren't too far away against Harcourt as well, not all that long ago. So an interesting race for 8th spot coming up. As we said, check out this week's MCDFNL Advocate, so try and say that 3 times fast, where we go into more detail for that race for 7th and 8th spot really as well, because we're throwing Rovers into that mix as well. Talking point number 2 taking place this weekend. Normally we look at past events in our talking points. This week it's a future event because it's a pretty big day at Navarre this weekend. Not only do Navarre play Lexington with only 1 loss between them for the season, but they will be playing for the Bibby Fisher Shield, the first of a series of perpetual matches between these 2 sides. Ray Bibby and Ray Fisher, not only legends of the Navarre and Lexington football clubs respectively, but also very distinguished individuals within the Lexington Football League and the Lexington Plains Football Leagues as well.
They certainly are. They're 2 famous surnames at those 2 clubs. If you're not a Driscoll at Navarre, you're a Bibby.
Yep.
And plenty of Fishers getting around for Lexington as well, so I'm sure both clubs will be keen to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, they are indeed, and probably 2 of the most decorated football people within our region. Obviously, Ray Fisher, service to the leagues was fantastic. I think he was secretary from 1957 till 2001, and Ray Bibby was the president of the leagues from 1960 to 1986, so they had 26 years in administration together at the helm of the Lexington Footy League and the Lexington Plains Footy League. So a remarkable effort, and 2 remarkable men that will be honoured this weekend, but we'll touch on that more later on, because talking point number 3, we're going to switch to the netball side of things at the moment. We're going to talk about the Harcourt netball seasons, because they are absolutely flying on the netball courts at the moment. Harcourt, not just in A grade, where they knocked over Lexington on the weekend, which anybody that's watched netball since Lexington have come into the MCDFNL will know that that's not an easy feat to do, to knock them over in an A grade game. They've replaced them in 2nd spot on the ladder, and they've actually made things quite shaky for Lexington with their top 4 hopes as well, because they play Navarre this week, and a loss there could drop them down to 4th and make things very difficult for them to feature in those top 2, 2nd or 3rd position. They might have to play Navarre again in a final, which they don't want to do. But we're talking about Harcourt, and we're talking about how well they've done with their program, and hats off to everybody at the Harcourt Footy Club. Not long ago they were struggling, for junior netballers in particular. Now they're absolutely flying across all grades.
Yeah, they certainly are, and hats off to the girls on the netball court. They've got a couple of good players in this season, so it'll be interesting to see how they fare come finals time.
Yeah, because they'll definitely be there. It's just whereabouts they figure will be the big thing going forward. Let's start having a look at this week's round 12 matches, because we spoke about that race for the finals, and I'll tell you what, we're going to have a little bit more clarity come 5 p.m. Sunday. I was going to say 5 p.m. Saturday, but we've got a Sunday game this week, and of course one of those teams is in that mix, so we'll have a lot more clarity as to how things are sitting at the end of this weekend. For our first game in particular, Maldon taking on Avoca at the Bill Woodfull Reserve, and a couple of weeks ago you wouldn't have think that Avoca would have started favourites in this one, but with their form over the last fortnight, they well and truly deserve to start as the better team in this game.
Yeah, they certainly do. Like we know, Avoca had a fair old exodus of players from last season. New coaching, so maybe we're just seeing that team start to gel together and play some good footy. Yeah,
good to see a couple of the young guns as well. Blake Salmon playing in his first senior win at Avoca, and Lockie Morganti, who took the game between the teeth a little bit and sparked them in the 3rd quarter. Obviously know the boys pretty well through travelling up to Cairns with them a few weeks back, so great to see them having an impact. But Maldon, this is one of those games where they may have set themselves for. They've had a couple of difficult games in the last couple of weeks. Obviously the game against Navarre 2 weeks ago, and then getting rolled at Campbell's Creek last week. They can set themselves for this game, and if they can get themselves back on the winners list, it could give them some momentum. They've got a couple of winnable games going forward. They actually still play Newstead and Denali as well, so their finals destiny still very much in their own hands, but they've got to win this week for that to happen.
Yeah, they've been pretty up and down this season. Maldon, I don't think anyone can deny that, but like you said, they might be focused on this game, getting back on that winners list. I'm going to go with Avoca though.
Yeah, Avoca for mine as well. I'm just, I suppose, a little bit swayed by their recent form and how well they've been going, and the fact that they are still now well and truly in that finals mix. And I'll tell you what Avoca need. They need a percentage booster. They've got the worst percentage out of those teams, going for 8th spot at the moment. They're some 15% behind Talbot, so almost 20% behind actually. So if they're going to win this game, they need to just put the foot on the gas all the way home.
Yeah, they certainly do. They've got some good goal kickers though, so we'll wait and see.
Another game that could very well shape this top 8 and the 8th position race is Campbell's Creek versus Talbot at Campbell's Creek this weekend. The 8th and 9th teams, I suppose the ones in the box seat at the moment, and both coming off, Campbell's Creek coming off a win last week, and Talbot with a very encouraging performance against Carisbrook as well. Very interesting game.
Yeah, it certainly is. Me and you probably had Talbot written off a little bit at the start of the season, such was their
Not
form.
a little bit. We had them written off completely, and we've been told in no uncertain terms about it as well.
Yeah, and they've certainly proved us wrong the last few weeks. I don't think anyone would have thought they'd get that close to Carisbrook. So I'm going to go with the Hawks.
Yeah, well, look, Hawks for mine. I just think they're in that little bit better form at the moment. Creek get that little bit up and down as well. Having said that, at home, Campbell's Creek, different side at home. So I'm tipping Talbot, but I'm not tipping them with a heck of a lot of confidence.
Yeah, me too. Like you said, Creek do play their home ground very well, but Talbot do have a nice spread of goal kickers where I think Campbell's Creek might be a little 1 or 2 dimensional up forward.
Yeah, Liam Belcher in great form for Talbot at the moment as well. Also of interest in this game, in this fixture, the A-grade netball game, Creek taking on Talbot, of course. Both teams winless for the season, one of them bound, I believe, to get their first win for the season. So that'd be great for the two clubs that have been struggling for not just this year, but over the last couple of years for a bit of success.
Yeah, big celebration at one of those clubs on Saturday night, I'd say.
Yeah, it could be indeed. Next game we'll have a look at this weekend. Denali taking on Newstead at Deledio Reserve. And again, Denali been a bit down, and Newstead, of course, been a bit down. Who would have thought that you look at these two teams' form lines from last week, Denali kicked 1 goal 6, and they had the better score out of the two teams last week. And obviously both a little bit down for form at the moment. But again, much like we spoke about with Molden, both teams probably setting themselves for this game.
Yeah, we know certainly Newstead can play good footy when they want to. Denali, like you said, has probably been down a little bit this season, missing a lot of players last week against Natty. I'm going to go with Newstead. I think they've just got a little bit more class, a couple of young rising stars, and I think they'll step up to the plate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much that loss against Navarre took away from Newstead and how much it sapped their confidence. They obviously not kicking a goal in a game of footy with the young kids, whether that got inside their head a little bit. Denali, we've seen them play some good footy this year. Obviously, when they beat Avoca, they played a really good game that day and ran away from Avoca in the end. If Justin Laird gets up and going and is allowed to spread his wings, so to speak, then this could be Denali's day. I think it'll be Newstead. Again, I'm not tipping with much confidence, though.
Yeah, I think those young players, though, for Newstead will step up, and I think they'll get the points here.
Newstead for the both of us. Big game, this one. Harcourt taking on Royal Park at Sims Dental Reserve in Harcourt. Obviously, both of these teams are still with their sights set on a top 4 finish, and for both of them to do so, they need a win today. Obviously, Harcourt wins have been against them in the last couple of weeks. A really good start against Lexington last week, though. That 8-goal first quarter and then getting the better of them in the third quarter. I know, talking to a few people that were out at Lexington on the weekend, they thought Harcourt are the real deal. So it'll be interesting to see how they go against a bushy side that probably need a little bit of a boost. They just got done what they had to out of Trentham last week, so they'll be looking for a big game this week as well. Yeah,
they certainly will. Harcourt started the season absolutely on fire, and I think they'll take a little bit of confidence out of that and knock the Tigers over here.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going with Royal Park just because I feel they're probably tracking a little bit better at the moment, but again, this is a really good tipping round because you can make really good cases for, especially in the games that we've spoken about already, for both teams. And I suppose going with Royal Park, just more better the devil you know in this one. But again, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong here.
Yeah, like you said, this could be the make or break round for the MCDFNL tipping competition.
Could be the make or break round for Royal Park's top 4 hopes as well, because they need to get this one if they want to finish in the top 4 and get that double chance at the end of the season. Navarre taking on Lexington at Navarre Recreation Reserve. Navarre shooting for 34 wins in a row. Lexington looking to gain a little bit of measure from that 7-point preliminary final loss last year.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolute cracker. Undoubtedly the game of the round. I'm going to go with Navarre. You can't tip against them at the moment, but those 2 games they've had in a row here, where they haven't let teams kick a goal, they're going to take massive confidence out of that.
And the fact that they've done it reasonably undermanned as well, they haven't had their full strength side in. Obviously, they're starting to get that back. Good to see Big Muscles Bibby kicking 4 goals last week as well up forward. I think we might have taught him a couple of things up in Cairns about how to attack the footy. I didn't, but a couple of the boys might have. But I suppose that's the good sign for Navarre, the fact they're now starting to get their troops back on the park. Lexington won't be any pushover, I can tell you that right now. And Matty Brown is in some form at the moment. He'll be the first to tell you that as well. But if he can get amongst the goals this week, it really gives Lexington a show. I just feel you're right, though. You can't tip against Navarre simply because over the last year and a half, they haven't given you a reason to tip against them. So looking forward to seeing this game with my own eyes, and Navarre, I reckon, just scraping over the line.
Yeah, so do I, but Shane Fisher will have drilled it into his charges this week that this is a game that they need to have a good showing in.
Exactly right. Look, if Lexington don't win this game but they only lose it by under 3 goals, they'll take confidence into the finals with it as well, because what you'll probably find, it's an interesting one because Lexington could still end up playing Navarre in that first final. They won't want to, but having said that, they don't have a good run against Carisbrook either. Their record against Navarre recently hasn't been too bad, so almost better the devil you do or you don't. But look, Navarre will win, but yeah, hoping that Lexington really give them a good shake.
Yeah, either way, it should be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, it should be a great game up at Navarre on the weekend. Natty Bialaba taking on the Maryborough Rovers at Natty on the weekend. Again, the Rovers will be fueled after last week's loss, but Natty up and about at the moment. A couple of big inclusions into the side last week, and some blokes that if they can get into some form before the finals, Mark Fitzgerald in particular, gives that forward line another dimension with him and Adrian Pilgrim up there, and then at their feet, the great man's back, the Wiz, Ryan Weir, 4 goals on the weekend, just didn't get out of second gear from what I hear as well, and from what the Wiz will tell us, he'll be the first one to tell us as well, there's still plenty left for him this year.
Yes, he certainly will let you know he thrived in the wet conditions, 4 goals. But like you said, big Mark Fitzgerald back up forward for Natty, put Adrian Pilgrim, Zach Perez into that mix, and there's not too many defenders in the league that could stop that trio.
And is that one of the things that Shane Green would be looking at, getting Fitzy back into the side at this stage and saying, right, you've got 5 weeks to work yourself back into form before the finals, knowing that there's every chance they could end up playing Navarre in that first final. And we know that over the last couple of years, Navarre and Natty finals have been pretty close. That'd be a real thorn in his crown as well. Perez, Pilgrim, Fitzgerald, all up forward, all talls, all being able to stretch, and then you've got the blokes like the Wiz at the feet as well that can kick goals. It's pretty daunting.
Yeah, you got the Wiz, Matty Stagg, and then you chuck Bruno Mortlock, Stevie Ross into that mix. That's a pretty formidable forward line.
I was going to say Stevie Ross, but I couldn't remember if he's retired or not because he's that old.
No, Bruno Mortlock's 40. So he's even older than Townie.
5 Mortlocks in the side the other week as well, wasn't there?
5 Mortlocks, two brothers, young Jai and Trent, playing with their uncle Brent.
We put that on the cover of the record a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, Brent's the biggest child out of them all.
It does not surprise me at all. Natty to win this?
Natty to win, of course, for me.
Rovers will give them a show, though. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They've been very competitive this year, and they do have the tall timber, obviously, with the Hedger boys in some good form at the moment. But I just feel Natty will be too strong here.
Yeah, just a little bit too much class for the boys in black and white, I think.
Sunday's game at Trentham. Trentham taking on Carisbrook this weekend, and big game for Carisbrook. Talbot were with them for 3 quarters last week until they motored away in the final quarter. No Big Nath last week. Hopefully he can come back into the side, although given the games at Trentham, he'll probably have another week off just because he wears the singlet under his jumper and he's a little bit soft, so he probably just won't say, I don't want to go to Trentham when it's 2 degrees. So
yeah, he might just say, just give me another week, please, Tim McKay.
Yeah, he might do, but this should be an interesting game because obviously Trentham, as we know, play a lot better at home than they do away. They gave at Royal Park a bit of something to think about last week, and they know that their season is just about on the line in this game as well. Shout out to young Jake Keogh, hurt himself pretty badly last week in the under-17 game, had to have some plastic surgery and a cut just above the eye. So Jakey, hope you're better soon, mate, but interesting game.
Yeah, it certainly should be. Obviously you can't tip against Carisbrook in this one. They've been absolutely on fire. Matt Bilton, unstoppable, either on the ball or up forward. He's been booting bags of goals and setting up plenty of others.
2013 and 2015?
If I was a betting man, I'd say yes.
Interesting. We'll talk about Mary Powell Medal in a couple of weeks as well, because there's a bloke that you know pretty well down at Natty that I reckon will be featuring fairly high in the voting, Mr. Bateson as well. But in this game, Carisbrook, we're going?
Yeah, Carisbrook for sure.
Carisbrook in this one. That's all the time we've got for this week, as we've kind of bumbled and stumbled our way through the footy show a little bit this week as well. Hopefully we got that cut in where you stuffed up in one of the earlier games. Otherwise, I've just left that in there and embarrassed the both of us. But I don't think we've done that. As I look back on it, I'm pretty sure we haven't. So bit of an inside joke there for everybody. But thanks for joining us this week, Sammy. Thanks for being here once again.
Always a pleasure, mate.
And we'll be back next week with more from around the Maryborough Castlemaine District Football and Netball League here on the MCDFNL Footy Show.